What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Septicflesh, entitled Titan. This is released on Prosthetic Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Athens, Greece, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very symphonic, atmospheric, and very, very elaborately orchestrated style of death metal. There are many bands within metal today that include very over-the-top theatrics and symphonics in their sound, but I honestly believe that one of the very best of the style is indeed Septicflesh. And over the course of the last 20 years, this has been a band that has really put out some very special and very unique material. I got introduced to this band with their 2008 album Communion. I really enjoyed the hell out of that record. The deep vocal growls, the interesting guitar riffs, and the very elaborate usage of orchestration and symphonics. I mean, this is a band that uses legitimate orchestrations, no usage of keys or anything of that to my knowledge. They use an actual orchestra, actual horn players, actual violin players, choirs. I mean, they're just so over the top about that kind of thing, but they make it work. And I instantly became hooked on this band. I also enjoyed their 2003 album, Sumerian Demons. That, I thought, was another great example of how Septicflesh can make their sound and style work very well. Even this band's earlier 90s material, with albums like Mystic Places of Dawn, Espotron, and Ophidian Wheel, delivered some very memorable and dark sort of material, but yet only a band like Septicflesh could pull that off quite nicely. I also enjoyed this band's previous release, 2011's The Great Mass. I really loved the ideas and concepts behind that record. It almost seemed to venture towards a more gothic, vampiric sort of style in their concepts and lyrics, and of course the visual aspects of this band. I mean, this is something that you have to see to believe, and I was acquainted with seeing them in 2012 with Grecian and Melichash and Inquisition and Ex Dio. Septicflesh were incredible live. They are an awesome live band and definitely worth paying to see live. Way worth seeing. Now we have the 9th album under the Septicflesh banner, entitled Titan. It's 10 tracks and it clocks in at around 45 minutes in length, and honestly, after giving this album many repeated listens, I honestly feel that in comparison to The Great Mass, it seems as if though that things feel a bit scaled back a little bit. It doesn't seem to hit as hard as I thought it would hit me, but I still consider Titan to be a very solid release, and there are quite a few great moments to be found on here, in addition to what you already come to know and appreciate from Septicflesh. As per usual, Septicflesh release, you're going to get some very tight guitar playing going on here. I really appreciate the attention to detail being brought forth with the guitar and bass work. Very well noted on the opening track, War in Heaven. I mean, you just hear the bass tone rattle right away, and I think it's a very incredible bass guitar tone. And the bass definitely is something that handles itself very well throughout this entire album. Just because this is a band that relies a lot on orchestration and symphonics doesn't mean it tries to drown out any of the major instrumentation here. And I think the bass guitar work does shine very brightly and well here. And then moving on to the actual guitars, just the way the riffs are being handled, it just sounds phenomenal. Going to tracks like Order of Dracul and Prometheus, you just get some really great and interesting guitar playing going on here. Very smooth riff work, very clean and very articulated. It definitely sounds quite nice and quite polished here. Not too polished, but yet in the same kind of ways that make a Septicflesh record work. I think the guitar riff work is very solid. Moving on to the drums, of course, this guy is a fantastic drummer, and of course he made his work on The Great Mass very splendid here. But his drum performance on Titan really feels very meticulous and very well crafted. You're going to get a lot of fast fills, a lot of fast double bass, a lot of great rhythms and syncopation going on. I think it's a very top-notch drum performance, and definitely once again showing the kind of ideas and paces going forward with this record. I mean, songs like, once again, going back to Prometheus and then to a track like Confessions of a Serial Killer, you just get some really smooth and articulate drum work going on with those particular songs, and I think it's really nice. And pretty much in the case of any sort of Septicflesh record, you're going to get some very over-the-top symphonics and orchestrations, but Septicflesh make the over-the-top moments of this album work. And with the orchestration, it jumps in right when it needs to. I don't think it tries to butt in or try to outdo anything. It doesn't try to interfere too much with the actual guitar and drum and bass work. It doesn't try to be too loud. I definitely think the symphonics are definitely a much needed nuance and a nice solid addition to what's being brought forth with Titan here. The orchestrations, the horns, the violins, the harpsichords that you hear on Order of Dracul, the additional keyboards, the choir vocals, such incredible vocal stylings coming from the choir here. I think it's awesome. And moving on to the actual vocals, as per usual, I think Seth does an incredible job being a great front man. He has such a booming, evil, guttural sounding roar to his voice, and it's definitely something that makes me respect him even way more than I already do. I really love his guttural vocal approach. Very understandable, very well worded. Of course, with his Greek background, the English is delivered in a very rough and gritty sort of manner, but I think he makes it work quite nicely. And of course, as in previous Septicflesh releases, you're going to get some very unique goth-inspired style of vocals, like you hear it on the track Burn. I understand why they're on the track, but it does feel a little bit weird and out of place in certain instances. I honestly preferred those kind of vocals better on The Great Mass. I think those kind of vocals worked very well here, but I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about Burn, but aside from that one particular track, when you do hear the instances of other sort of vocals, the other kind of cleans, I think they work. I don't know if it worked with Burn for me, but in other instances, I think it's a little better. So overall, aside from the few issues that I have with this album, I think this is another really solid entry into the Septicflesh discography. There is a lot of great instrumentation work going on here, awesome vocals, and some really elaborate concepts. I love the orchestration. I love Seth's vocal styles. The clean vocals on Septicflesh's end could be a little better in certain instances, but aside from that, I don't take anything away from the talent that they bring forth to the table here. I think Titan is a really solid release. I didn't enjoy this as much as The Great Mass, and I don't think that this is better than Communion, but still, I think Titan is a really solid Septicflesh release, and if you're a fan of what this band's put out in the past, I definitely think you're going to enjoy this release. So, if I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say War in Heaven, Order of Dracul, Prototype, Prometheus, Confessions of a Serial Killer, and the closing track, The First Immortal. So I'm going to leave you some links in the description box as to how you can get a hold of this album and listen to it. I will link you to the Prosthetic web store where you can purchase a copy. It is available in this 2-CD digipack. Very nicely done layout. It has the actual album and a bonus CD with isolated orchestration score. I think it's a really nice addition. It's also available on 2LP vinyl, and there's also a box set edition. I believe this album is also streaming in its entirety on the Prosthetic Records YouTube channel. I will link you to some selected tracks from this album so you can have a taste and example of what this album is about. So, again, the album is Titan by Septicflesh. This is released on Prosthetic Records. Check this out. And as far as the score goes, I'm going to feel a very strong 7.5 out of 10 for this one. Possibly an 8 later on. I think this is going to be a definite grower, but still Septicflesh are one of the very best bands in symphonic metal today and symphonic death metal. So, support Septicflesh. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for joining my channel. And until the next time, Army Hell out.